All right, sports fans, how's everybody out here doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. It is that time of the week, folks. My key games for this weekend in the world of college football. And I'll tell you like this weekend, I think, is going to be a dandy. A lot of ranked teams are facing each other this weekend. You got some of those ranked teams that are looking to get back on track after a super upset of Saturdays, super upset of games last Saturday, excuse me. And I think we have some good games on tap. Like I said, a lot of ranked teams facing each other. A lot of implications already early at this point of the season as far as conferences and the bigger picture that is the college football playoff. But nonetheless, here are my key games to keep an eye out for this weekend in the world of college football. And I want to get things started tomorrow night in the Big 12. You got a pair of former Pac-12 teams that are facing off in their new league, and 16th ranked Utah traveling to Tempe to take on Arizona State. Now, Utah has almost had 2 weeks to digest that loss to Arizona, where they really sputtered. And of course, when you think about Utah, it really comes down to the availability of veteran quarterback Cam Rising. When Cam Rising is there, everything functions more fluidly for this Utes team. He is expected to be under center for the Utes tomorrow night against the Sun Devils. And of course, that changes the complexion of this game. You look at the talent of running back Micah Bernard for Utah, wide receiver Dorian Singer. And then when you think about the Kyle Whittingham teams for the Utes, they always find these quality defenders that flew under the radar coming out of high school. And another one of those guys to keep an eye out for Utah tomorrow night is going to be defensive end Van Fillinger. But don't look now. But you got an Arizona State team that has already surpassed their win total for each of the last 2 years, and they're looking to make some noise this year in the Big 12. Quarterback Sam Levitt is off to a strong start. You also have running back Cam Sketterbo, as well as linebacker Keyshawn Elliott, and then Clayton Smith as well on that defensive line for ASU. Arizona State is an improving team. There are most people who do expect Utah to win the Big 12. I think they are going to be in that mix to win the Big 12, and I think they get back on track tomorrow night. Thus, I'm going to take the Utes by the score of 31-23. Now, moving on to a Super Saturday in college football. I want to get things started with unranked South Carolina traveling to Tuscaloosa to take on the seventh ranked Crimson Tide out of Alabama. Now, of course, the Crimson Tide were ranked number one in the nation last week before they suffered that shocking loss last Saturday at the hands of Vanderbilt. For the Crimson Tide, they come into this contest favored by 3 touchdowns over the Gamecocks. And it's going to be interesting to see which Alabama team are we going to see. Are we going to see the team that beat Georgia, or are we going to see the team that struggled with Vanderbilt? For me, first and foremost, for Alabama, their defense has to play better. The Crimson Tide have given up 74 points over the last 2 games. Of course, the win over Georgia, and of course, the loss to Vandy. So I'm looking at this defensively. First things first, they got to play better with the likes of Jihad Campbell, Deontay Lawson, Malachi Moore, and Quay Robinson. The talent is there. Okay. You look at this Alabama offense. Jalen Milroe did not do a good job of protecting the football last week. That has to improve. You've got this strong running game with Jan Miller and Justice Haynes, and of course, Ryan Williams on the outside. Now, for South Carolina, for them to go out there and try to pull off the upset, Lenora Sellers has to play an outstanding game at quarterback, as does Rocket Sanders at running back. And then these defensive ends, Kyle Kennard and Dylan Stewart, rushing the passer, they're going to be important. This is an important game for Kalen DeBoer as the head coach at Alabama, because, whenever we saw an Alabama team struggle under Nick Saban, and I know this is Kalen DeBoer's show now. nonetheless, his teams responded and responded well. And I think this game right here is going to be very telling as far as the second half of the college football season for Alabama and how things are going to go for Kalen DeBoer and company. Like I said, Alabama's favorite big in this game. Okay. And I think they might struggle at times, but I think they are going to respond. And I'm going to take the Crimson Tide by 17 in this one, 37-20. Now, staying in the SEC, and it's the same cast but a different script as the Red River rivalry is now a part of this league. And of course, I'm talking about top ranked Texas taking on 18th ranked Oklahoma at the Cotton Bowl in Dallas. So, following the loss by Alabama last week, the Longhorns are back in the saddle as the top team in the country. And aside from being ranked number one right now, they're getting their quarterback back, their starting quarterback. But then again, they really didn't have a lot of fall off with the backup quarterback Arch Manning over the last couple of weeks, and of course with their starting quarterback, I'm talking about Quinn Ewers. Um, you look at Quinn Ewers and what he can do is both a runner and a thrower, and of course when he's throwing the football in the Steve Sarkisian offense, he's going to try to hook up with the likes of former Alabama wide receiver Isaiah Bond. But then this Texas defense, which includes the likes of linebacker Anthony Hill Jr. and Colin Simmons rushing the passer. Can they slow down this Oklahoma offense? And this is an Oklahoma offense that looked a lot different with Michael Hawkins at quarterback in comparison to Jackson Arnold. I still think it's a work in progress, and it's a tough task for Oklahoma to try to go out there and score points back to back, blow for blow, if you will, with Texas. I think the onus is going to be on the Sooners defense to try to make this game an ugly game and keep it a low scoring affair with the likes of Danny Stutzman at linebacker, and then, of course, R. Mason Thomas on that D line for the Sooners. At the end of the day, you simply throw out the rule book when you get the Longhorns and the Sooners together. Texas is favored by 14 and a half points in this one. I'm going on top of that, and I'm going to take Texas by 18 over Oklahoma, 38-20. Now, a big one in the Big Ten that lost a little bit of the sizzle, but it's still big. As you got fourth ranked Penn State traveling to the Coliseum out in LA on Saturday to take on now unranked USC. We saw the men of Troy drop out of the top 25 rankings following their surprising road loss to Minnesota last Saturday. So you got a couple of scenarios right here. First and foremost, a Nittany Lions team that is good, but they're flying under the radar a little bit because a lot of people are not talking about them. You got quarterback Drew Allar, who's, he's been steady Eddie for the most part in James Franklin's offense with Penn State. And then, of course, he's not trying to do too much by himself. He's relying on the talent around him. And for that, Penn State's got to run the football with Nicholas Singleton and and Katron Allen, and then set up a lot of play actions from Allar to the likes of tight end Tyler Warren. You got a Penn State defense that is ranked fourth in the nation. When you think about these Nittany Lions, you think about Abdul Carter up front. And it's going to be very interesting. The USC offense going up against this Penn State defense, because so far the men of Troy have struggled in the Big Ten. They're 1-2. Okay. Their losses at Michigan and at Minnesota. And remember, the one game that they did win was at home a couple of weeks ago against Wisconsin. And they found themselves down 21-10 in that contest before they were able to get going. I think what USC is going to have to do is they have to find some physicality that we have not seen in recent weeks. And of course, as a whole, the Big Ten is a more physical league than the Pac 12 was, okay, with USC there. But nonetheless, Miller Moss and his offense, what are they going to do against this Penn State defense? That's going to be very important. You got running back Woody Marks, and I think he's going to need to be key in this game for Southern Cal if they're going to try to win this contest. Easton Mascarenas Arnold, the former Oregon State linebacker who's doing his thing for the men of Troy right now. He's going to be important defensively for USC. You look at this contest right here. Penn State is favored by 4 points at the Coliseum. Not that often that you see USC as an underdog at home. I'll tell you like this. if USC loses this game, it's not going to be pretty for Lincoln Riley as far as the criticism that he's going to get but he's already getting the criticism following their loss to Minnesota last week, and of course previous to that the loss to Michigan. But nonetheless, I think SC finds a way to get it done at home, and I'm going to take USC by the score of 27-24. Now back in the SEC on Saturday night, you got unranked Florida traveling to Knoxville to take on the eighth ranked Tennessee Volunteers. And of course, once upon a time, Gators versus Vols was one of the premier games in the SEC. Unfortunately, that is no longer the case. Tennessee comes into this game favored by 14 and a half, and they're looking to try to bounce back after they suffered their first loss of the season last Saturday night, a tough one in Fayetteville against Arkansas. So this Gators defense, will they be able to beat up Tennessee quarterback Nico Iamaleava? Because you look at this Arkansas defense last week; they really disrupted a lot of things that Tennessee gets is able to do on offense. That's going to be important. I look at this Vols running attack with the likes of running backs Dylan Sampson and Deshaun Bishop. They're going to be important for Tennessee at home in this one. And then defensively, the Vols themselves have the second ranked defense in the nation. The two quarterback scheme for Florida so far in the last couple of weeks with DJ Lagway and Graham Mertz. It's been up and down, but nonetheless, the Gators have won their last two games in a row. They beat Mississippi State and they beat UCF. Granted, those teams are not Tennessee. It's going to be a Saturday night game in Neyland. It's one of those where if you got more than 100,000 people there, that place is going to be electric. Tennessee is a big favorite in this one. They're favored by 14 and a half, but I'm going to take the Vols by 13 in this one, and I'm going to give them the 30-17 win. Now, the big one in Eugene, okay, in this game, just like the Penn State USC matchup, is typically reserved for the Rose Bowl. But now this is a conference affair that we've got going on, and you got number two Ohio State traveling to Eugene to take on the third ranked Ducks out of Oregon. And just like it was and is for USC, Oregon, a former Pac 12 school, now finds themselves as a 3-point underdog at home against this Big Ten Titan. Two national powers, like I just said, they're always in the mix for the postseason, and you can expect that to be the same this year because there's a possibility Oregon and Ohio State, excuse me, could not face each other not twice but three times this year. Okay, because both of them have what it takes to get the Indy for the Big Ten championship game, and of course, possibly in the college football playoff as well. But on this season, this is going to be the biggest test for both of these teams so far. And I'm going to start with Ohio State. You got the former K-State quarterback, Will Howard, who week by week is getting more comfortable in this Chip Kelly offense. And then the running game for the Buckeyes. This is going to be important. I think Ohio State definitely wants to go out there and win the time of possession battle. And on top of that, if they're scoring and they have the ability or they find a way to take this Oregon crowd out of the game, advantage Ohio State, which means you can expect a healthy dose of both Quinshawn Judkins and Travion Henderson carrying the ball in this one. The talent is always there for Ryan Day at wide receiver for Ohio State. Keep an eye out on Jeremiah Smith and the veteran Emeka Egbuka. The Buckeyes do have the top-ranked defense in the nation, led by the likes of Sonny Styles and Denzel Burke. And what can they do against this Oregon offense led by quarterback Dylan Gabriel? That's going to be interesting right there. Jordan James and this running game for the Ducks. What are they going to do against this Ohio State defense? You got defensive end Jordan Birch for Oregon, as well as linebacker Bryce Botcher. A lot of NFL talent that is going to be on the field Saturday night in Eugene. Again, not that often that Oregon is the underdog at home, but I'm going to take the favorite in this one. I'm going to take Ohio State by 4, 31-27. Now back in the SEC, another ranked game. This one I think is not getting the pub as some of the others. And you got ninth ranked Ole Miss traveling to Death Valley to take on the 13th ranked LSU Tigers. It's not that often, and I know you probably are tired of hearing me say this right now, but another blue blood, so to speak, another top power in college football that is the underdog at home. And I'm talking about LSU. They are a 3.5 point underdog at home in this one to Ole Miss. You look at LSU, they had a week off to prepare for this game. And I'm looking at their defense, led by the likes of Whit Weeks and Greg Penn. Can they go out there and force Ole Miss quarterback Jackson Dart into making some mistakes? Defensively, you think about Ole Miss, and only Kentucky is the only opponent that has faced them so far this season that has gotten to 20 points. So that's going to be important if LSU can do that. But I'll tell you like this LSU offense is probably the most talented offense that the Rebels have seen so far this season. You got the likes of Garrett Nussmeier, of course, at quarterback, and then running back Caden Durham, and then the wide receivers Aaron Anderson and Kyron Lacey, as well as tight end Mason Taylor. But then I look at this Ole Miss defense, which includes linebacker Chris Paul, defensive end Jared Ivey, and linebacker Suntarine Perkins. Again, like it was with the Oregon Ohio State game, there's a lot of NFL talent that's going to be on the field Saturday night for this one. Night games at Tiger Stadium in Baton Rouge typically advantage Louisiana State. You got a game right here. Like I said, Ole Miss is a 3.5 point favorite. The over under is 61 and a half. I don't bet against LSU in night games at home. I'm going to take the Bayou Bengals in this one by the score of 34-27. Now, in the Big 12, you've got 11th ranked Iowa State traveling to Morgantown to take on West Virginia. The Cyclones come into this contest favored by 3 in a game where you have two teams that are looking to make some noise in the Big 12. For Matt Campbell and Iowa State, he once again has a team that is good enough not only to just contend for the Big 12 championship, they have a team that is good enough to win the league altogether. Veteran quarterback and Rocco Beck, strong running game with running backs Jalen Jackson and Abu Sama, strong wide receivers in Jalen Noel and Jaden Higgins, and then the linebacker play of Cooper Abell as well as J.R. Singleton on the defensive line for the Cyclones. The Cyclones defense is real. 8 interceptions so far for Iowa State. And of course, they're going to try to go out there and put the pressure on West Virginia quarterback Garrett Green. But nonetheless, this is a Mountaineers team that we just saw go to Stillwater and blow the doors off of Oklahoma State. So they've got some confidence heading into this game. Linebacker Josiah Trotter, what is he going to do in this contest? And then you got TJ Jackson on that defensive line as well for the Mountaineers. Iowa State comes into this contest favored by 3. I'm going to take the over in that one as I'm going to take the Cyclones by 11, 31-20. And finally, rounding off in the Big 12 on Saturday night, you've got 18th ranked K-State traveling to Boulder to take on Ralphie and the Colorado Buffaloes. K-State comes into this game favored by 3.5 points, and they're taking on a Colorado team that's looking to make some noise in the Big 12. They've won their last couple of contests, Their defense is playing better, and on top of that, they're running the football. The Buffaloes come into this game fresh off of a bye week. We know what Shador Sanders can do at quarterback. He's looking a lot better with Pat Shermer as the offensive coordinator at Colorado. And then, of course, Travis Hunter. Is there anything that this young man can't do? And, of course, we know about the defensive prowess of Travis Hunter, of course, his wide receiver skills. And then it's not just about him in the passing game for Colorado, as you also have Jimmy Horn and LeJontay Webster. But like I said, this Colorado defense has been playing better. And it's going to be important because they're going to have to try to out physical K-State, which is not easy to do. So linebacker Nakai Hill-Green, what is he going to be able to do? What is he going to bring to the table for the Buffs in this one? Like I said, you got to try to out physical K-State. Easier said than done. They're going to run the football with quarterback Avery Johnson and running back DJ Giddens. And then when you think about K-State, you think about solid defense, which means keep an eye out for linebacker Austin Romaine, as well as defensive end Brendan Mott. Colorado is playing better but K-State is simply the better team. And because of that, I'm going to take the Wildcats on the road by the score of 30-20. So, folks, those are my key games for this weekend in the world of college football. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank each and every one of you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on the X, formerly known as Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it will be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365 that you can check it out. Drop a line to be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin, and I'm signing off. I'm saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.